Hello, Elizabeth here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a disco cowboy hat with mirror tiles. This project is so much fun and makes for some awesome maximalist home decor. I'm gonna walk you through everything step by step. I started with this white felt cowboy hat. These are the mirror tiles I bought. They came with a protective layer over them and are peel and stick. They did work, and I'm happy with how the cowboy hat turned out, but these particular mirror tiles were a bit of a pain to work with. They're not the greatest quality, so I dug a little deeper and found some on Amazon that have video reviews, and they seem way better than these. So I linked those down below. Just know that they are not the ones I used in this video, but I think you'll have a much easier time with those ones. The tiles do come with their own adhesive on them, but for some extra security, because the hat is made of felt, I used my favorite glue that I usually use for rhinestone projects, which is called GemTac by the brand Beacon. I use it mostly on stainless steel tumblers, but it is meant for use on fabrics as well, and I think it stuck really nice and securely to this hat. This was my first time using mirror tiles, so it was a learning experience along the way. I'll walk you through the mistakes I made and what ended up working best for me. These tiles are obviously square, and the hat is very curvy with lots of rounded edges. So the rectangular strips that the tiles come in are not going to be as easy as just peeling and sticking the whole sheet like it would be if you were mirror tiling something square. And at first I thought I was going to try to stick them on one at a time like I do with rhinestone projects, but I quickly decided that was not really necessary, and I ended up just separating the strips into small rectangles. Bricks of 2x4 or 2x3 tiles seem to work pretty well around the rim. There are some tiny gaps between the corners, but they blend right into the finished product, which is partly thanks to the hat being white underneath. If the hat is a different color that will really stand out through the mirror tiles, you're going to notice the gaps a whole lot more. I started out trying to use tweezers to place the tiles, but I switched over to just using my fingers, which is what I did for the entire rest of the hat. It was way easier. So I started by going around the entire inner edge of the rim of the hat. The main reason I don't love these tiles is because the strips are completely stiff, and I had to use my fingers to break the tiles apart. And when snapping them back, a lot of the time it caused some damage to the tiles and peeled the silver backing off, or broke them and chipped pieces off, and it was also kind of hard on my fingers. But the ones I linked down below come out of the box already flexible and bendy, and there's a video review of someone easily cutting them down to size with a pair of scissors. So that's why I think those ones would be so much easier to work with. And on the part of the hat that actually sits on your head, I think you could use much bigger strips of tile and just wrap it around the curve of the hat because it's able to just mold into that shape. As I expanded outward with more rows towards the edge of the hat brim, I laid each of the bricks across the gaps between the bricks in the previous row, just like a brick house, so that the gaps wouldn't all be in the same spot in each row. And that definitely helps to blend in the gaps as well, instead of having full lines of gaps across the brim. When I got to the very outer edge of the brim, there was only enough room for single rows of tiles, so I finished off the outline with 1x4 bricks, making them a little smaller if needed around the tighter corners. Next, I moved on to the crown of the hat, and at first I was continuing my bricklay pattern for a couple of rows, which worked fine, but then I discovered that I could make each of my bricks a little bit flexible by gently bending back the lines between the tiles just once, not bending them back the opposite way to actually break them apart, and it would make it so that they can kind of wrap around the curve a little better without being so stiff. So I started bending all of my bricks like that before laying them down, and it really helped with the shape, particularly when I got up to the dents and the crease in the top of the hat. If you're using better tiles than me, like the ones I linked below, you shouldn't have this issue because I believe they're going to be flexible anyway. But if yours are stiff like mine, you can give this a try to help with all of those rounded curves. In the dented areas, I bent back every single line between the tiles to make it super flexible, and that really helped to give coverage on these curvier curves without anything poking out too much. The very top of the hat was definitely the most challenging. I had to use single tiles and groups of just 2 or 3 tiles to fill in all the tiny gaps as it got super curvy and narrow in some places. This is also the part where I made the biggest mess with my glue, and looking back, I wish I would have wiped off the glue residue as I went instead of hoping I could get it all off at the end. But overall, it wasn't totally ruined, I just should have been a little cleaner with it. So if you can keep some rubbing alcohol or acetone close by just to wipe off any smudges of glue as you go, it will definitely make your end result look nicer. I filled in my last couple gaps and then the hat was fully covered. I let it sit for 24 hours and then sprayed some acetone all over the hat, letting that sit for 5 minutes. And then I used lint-free wipes to get some of that glue residue off the tiles. If you use cotton pads for this, they will definitely snag on the corners of the tiles and make a mess of little fluffs everywhere. So your best bet is to use some lint-free wipes like these ones. It certainly didn't get all the glue residue off, but it did get a lot of it and made it look nice and shiny. And here is the final result. If you're planning on actually wearing your hat, I'd recommend mirror tiling the underside of the brim as well. But I made this for a friend who plans to use it as decor, so I didn't do the underside of this one. I think in the end, any gaps or imperfections aren't noticeable, especially from a distance, and overall, I'm happy with the way this turned out. But in the future, I would definitely invest in some nicer mirror tiles. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment letting me know what sort of projects you'd like to see in the future. See you later!